Right, back and we're live with you tonight here on In Focus. The Presidential Climate Commission has concluded consultation to gather inputs and recommendations on the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan. And at the core of the recommendations is that South Africa needs a modernized electricity system that fosters economic growth and meets minimum emissions standards. This is also the factor of enabling cheaper cost of capital, and that the just transition must be central to the future of electricity systems. Here to make sense of all that which I've just said, now we're joined by Steve Nicholls, the Presidential Climate Commission's head of mitigation. Steve, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time and coming on tonight. Let me start here. There are some stakeholders in the energy space who have certainly come on the show and have expressed this view that says that there is a disconnect that resides in what the EIP, the National Integrated Energy Plan, and what the IRP is demanding that we put in place. What's your feeling on that?
Well, look, the work that we've done over the last year is really to gather stakeholder views on how we can think about the economy and its relation to electricity in particular. And electricity is really fundamentally a developmental issue. Without access to abundant and affordable electricity, it really constrains economic growth, but also household development opportunities. People don't have access to the resources they need to start businesses, to study properly. Yeah. So this is really the center of the debate.
Right. And what is the matter that brought about the need to review the IRP? Because essentially there was a similar process that was followed, and it brought us what we would have known as the RIP 2019 to 2030. Why did we have to put that process under review?
Well, so a lot of things change since 2019. Technology moves on. The state of our grid and the state of our coal plants have changed. And so the IRP is really something that's meant to be updated every 2 years to account for the speed at which the world is changing and allow us to refine our electricity planning so that we sort of optimize access and stability for electricity. And so that's the process that's underway. And Minister Mantashe asked us as the PCC, or the commissioners of the PCC, to look at making recommendations around the update of the IRP and how we would think about climate change in that update.
Yeah. And what are the consultations revealing as far as what people are saying should be the energy model that is deployed, considering, of course, the current challenges that we're facing?
Yeah, so the PCC ran a year-long process engaging with stakeholders, trying to understand their views. And typically stakeholders gave us some very clear messages. First, because of the importance of electricity in development, electricity planning needs to be done in as transparent a way as possible, taking into account the most available science. They gave us a very strong message that the just transition needs to be at the very center of energy planning and electricity planning. And so emerging from that conversation around just transition was the parallel need to think about economic transformation and economic diversification, that we need to use green energy and leverage green reindustrialization, localization, and creating opportunities for people. At the same time, we need to be able to provide reskilling and retraining for people to take advantage of those opportunities, and then provide a certain amount of social support for those that are that might lose their employment through the transition. Yeah. And so those kind of three elements together really help drive forward a much more ambitious economic plan.
And is that an intervention or even a model that, in your view, you think it attacks a state-based intervention when it comes to electricity generation?
Sorry, just repeat that last part.
I'm saying, would you say that model, as you're putting it now, which focuses more on what you call renewable energy, is it an attack, I suppose, or maybe is it averse to a state-based intervention when it comes to electricity generation?
No, I don't think so. We will probably see more privatization in the generation sector, but of course we must think about the electricity system as a whole. And the state will still need an incredibly strong role in the regulation of the sector, in managing the transmission and the distribution grids, ensuring that affordable power reaches consumers. And we think will probably also play a very important role in generation themselves. Eskom continues to be a producer of electricity and will itself transition to be a generator of renewable energy.
Yeah. I see in your statement you're saying certainly you wouldn't be supporting an idea of, for example, decommissioning power plants immediately right now, willy-nilly at a fast pace, without considering the kind of situation that we are having right now as far as the energy crisis is concerned. What informs that?
Exactly. I mean, there is a kind of myth that the just transition is about accelerating the coal sector close down and sort of isolating people. But of course, we have a responsibility as a country to make sure that there is renewable energy on the grid for when we do decommission those coal plants so that you don't enhance load shedding, but also to make sure that those other industrial opportunities and reskilling have happened to give opportunity to people who might lose employment as we phase out coal. But the key point is that the urgency, that puts even more urgency on putting more renewable energy on the grid. Because of these plants being old and getting to the end of their economic life, it's very difficult and costly to extend their life, and certainly would cause carbon emissions that could possibly cause us not to meet our nationally determined contribution.
Yeah.
So the onus is on us is to build renewables quickly and build those alternate economic opportunities quickly.
Given the uncertainty of future demand and maybe even geopolitical tensions and situations that exist, technologies and so on and so forth, and other innovation, is there space and room within all that, for example, to once again consider things like gas, things like nuclear power?
There's always space. So in the work that we did, we reviewed a set of modeling exercises done by the University of Cape Town, the CSIR, and business through the National Business Initiative. And what was interesting is all of those models select a least cost development model of renewable energy plus storage plus peaking support. Now, they don't select new coal, they don't select nuclear, and they don't select big gas installations. And the reason for that is these are not the least cost solutions. But of course, things might change. Maybe innovations happen in the future and the costs of those technologies come down. But right now, these are not the least cost solutions. And so we'd be better off investing in more renewable energy at a greater rate. But it does emphasize to your earlier question that you need to repeat this electricity planning often so that you can take advantage of where we do see innovations happening.
Yeah. And currently, I mean, with where we are sitting, and if you look at some of the projections from some of the engineers, they are still indicating, for example, even Q1 of 2024, where we could still be dealing with either stage 2 or stage 3 of load shedding. Where should we be certainly looking now? Because even if we were to be talking renewable projects, one, the minister has already pointed out that there are grid constraints currently, so we wouldn't be able, for example, in the Northern Cape to be plugging into the grid at this particular point. It's already congested. Where would we be looking?
So we do say in our report that we support the actions of the sort of presidential action plan and Operation Vulindlela and the work that they're doing. They're making good progress at some immediate solutions to this problem. But the real solution to load shedding is to drive renewable energy onto the grid as quickly as possible, as well as investing in the grid. So the point you make about the congestion on the grid is a really good one. If we build more generation in the Northern Cape, we simply can't get it to consumers. So one of the recommendations the Commission makes is to think about electricity planning spatially. Where is grid availability, and therefore where do we locate this renewable energy? And that spatial planning gives us some extra additional information. We then know, well, where these installations will be, where we need skills, what kinds of skills development we need, what kind of road upgrading, what kind of port upgrading might we need. So we start to think about electricity planning systemically, and then also thinking about the other jobs that we might be able to create through investing in the value chains.
Yeah. Your thoughts on the recent launch of what is called an energy one-stop shop by Invest South Africa? Do you think this is a good tool supposed to speed up the regulatory processes?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent initiative. Anything we can do to make it easier for investors to invest in our country and to rapidly accelerate the rollout of new generation and particularly renewable energy onto our grid is going to help us resolve load shedding in the shortest time possible.
Steve Nicholls, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and joining us tonight here on In Focus. That's the head of mitigation in the Presidential Climate Commission. That is Steve Nicholls there. Right.